Welcome back to the channel. We got this pawn shop gun. Thanks again to Chris. Actually a really good gun. Enjoy shooting it. Had a blast making the last video. But today the 7mm strikes back. 7mm-08 strikes back. Let me just show you. We've got plenty of bullets here. We're going to be shooting. Now, we're going for redemption today. Had a good time. Enjoyed what we did the last time, getting out and shooting this gun for the first time with some factory ammo and with these hand loads. But I did not get the velocity I wanted with that accurate 4350. So we're gonna try 3 different powders today. Had a lot of people commenting that Varget's the way to go. Varget. I know Varget's a good powder. I know it's very accurate. Does it give extreme speeds? For heavy bullets, it doesn't seem like it in my mind with those heavy 162 grain AMAXs that we're going to be shooting today and we shot last time. It would need a slower burning powder. But I honestly do not know. I could be dead wrong. So I've loaded up 5. Just kind of a ladder test today, this in some Varget. So it's a faster burning powder than accurate 4350. We're just going to see what kind of velocity that we get. And then I've got 5 3-shot groups with Superformance and 5 3-shot groups with 6.5 Staball. We are gonna get some velocity, hopefully. 6.5 Staball is a little bit slower than accurate 4350, not a ton. And then Superformance is definitely slower. It's more like H40 831. Now the reason I went with accurate 4350 is the Hornady manual said it would get about 2,600 feet per second. Now, I'm sure that's a 24-inch barrel, not a 22, so even 2550. With 1 grain over max, I only got 2,400. Now Varget supposedly also gets 2,600, as does the 6.5 Staball. And then the Hornady manual says Superformance gets 2,800. So far, accurate 4350 was way off. Hopefully my gun likes these other powders better, and hopefully what I get is closer to what the Hornady manual says. Let's find out. All right, already a good start. The 4th round that I just shot was max and should have been around 2,600, let's say 2,550 because of the 22-inch barrel. So I didn't quite get there. With the 5th shot though, we got pretty darn good. Basically got to that velocity. And that was a grain over max. But you know, the first one, the first round I shot was already over what accurate 4350 did. So those of you who said you'll get better velocity out of Varget, you're 100% right. Thank you. So, you know, pretty good velocity. It was a big jump up there from max to half grain over max was a big jump. So that could be considered a pressure spike. There was no other signs of pressure. Bolt lift wasn't harder. Primer was rounded on the edges. There was no pressure signs except for that jump in velocity. But pretty good to me. Now, this was not a 5-shot group. Just kind of want to go down here, let the barrel cool while I'm walking down here and see what it looks like. Nothing really to talk about. That's 5 different loadings and 1 bullseye. But anyway, all right, I'll be shooting the rest of these down here at this target. And these will actually be 3-shot groups, starting with 6.5 Staball. First load with the 6.5 Staball, a little over 2,500 feet per second. Say that's pretty good. That's about where it should be. Got 4 more loads to go, but that 4th load should be max. And the book says around 2,600. So far I'd say it's outperforming what the book said. So happy about that. Let's look at the group. All right, 6.5 Staball. I like it. About 1-inch group. So good start. Happy with that. Let's see where it goes. All right, the velocity jumped up a little bit, not a lot. I will say this, I forgot to mention, last time I was off the lands by 20 thousandths. I ended up backing it off to about 50 thousandths because the nose of the bullet was kind of touching the feed ramp and it wasn't feeding good. So did back up the seating depth to 50 thousandths. And so far the accuracy's been better, but we just got started. Let's see what the group looks like. All right, opened up a little bit. That's more like a 2.5 inch group, so not quite as good as that first group. Let's shoot the next group. Oh yeah, good SD on that one. And velocity jumped up again about where it should be. In all honesty, it looks like it's going to go right along with what the book said. So 6.5 Staball, so far so good. Let's look at this group. Mediocre, but that'll work. It seems like anytime I get an exceptional SD, the group isn't good. But on to the next one. All right, that third shot was a misfire. I tried 2 different times, it would not fire, so probably a bad primer. First two, one was over 2600, one was a little under. Book said 2600, so that's good. However, once again, 24-inch barrel versus 22, so I'm actually like 50 feet per second over what the book said with 6.5 Staball. So far so good. Let's go look at what these two bullets did. First two, pretty good. Not sure what the third one would have done, but the first two were good. Now let's shoot the last three right there. This was max. This will be a half grain over max. All right, that was the final group from 6.5 Staball. Good velocity, really good. Very happy with it. Didn't have any pressure. Even that last group was a half grain over pressure, no pressure. You could potentially go up even more. But of course, we're going to move on to Superformance, which once again the book says I should get 2800. So even with the lowest load, should be a noticeable jump. We will see. But let's go see what this last group looks like. Well, not the greatest. Two there close to each other. One was a flyer. So never did quite reach that, accuracy again, but not the end of the world. About a 2-inch group. So let's move on to Superformance. All right, fantastic start with Superformance. Now for you guys thinking this video is getting a little bit too long, I agree with you. So the last 4 groups, I'm not going to show myself shooting again. I'm going to just do this little walk and show you right here. So there's my average muzzle velocity, standard deviation, extreme spread. I don't know if the groups are any good, but velocity is a great start. Immediately better than the Staball HD, which it should be. According to the manual, it should be like 200 feet per second faster max compared to max. So really happy, really excited to see what it tops out at. But let's go see what this first group looks like. Okay, this is alarming. That's a 3-shot group. So that's like 3.5 inches. And I'm pretty sure it went this way, it just kept getting further out. So that's not good. So let's see if they tighten back up or if this velocity and this powder just doesn't like the barrel. The velocity is good. The first group's terrible. Let's go to the second one. All right, you see the numbers right there. Definitely getting up there on speed. Loving it. I'm curious to get down here and see the group. Is it as bad as the last group? Hopefully not. case you're wondering, I am letting the barrel cool down a little bit. It's not scalding hot. It's really just barely warm. After that last two groups though, I did set it aside. I'm gonna shoot a different gun for a bit, let it just completely cool down and shoot the last three groups. But let's see what it looks like. Okay, this is pretty crazy. There, there, there. Same thing as there, there, there. You guys who have done this a long time and have seen things like this before, can you explain it to me? It's obviously a barrel shift of some kind as it heats up. So, shooting a little too fast probably. I am letting it cool down in between strings, but perhaps my strings are too close together. And of course it is just a thin barreled 7mm-08. So that is a little crazy. I'm gonna set the gun aside and let it completely cool off and not go as fast on the last three and see how it does. All right, still really liking the velocity. However, it did kind of take a step back. It didn't really jump at all there. So hopefully we can still get to that 2800, but it kind of stalled a little bit there. Let's look at the target. Okay. So it didn't sling them quite as bad. There's two there together, but this one is pretty far over here. So letting it cool off a bit helped a little bit. It didn't just do this diagonal group here, but it still is slinging them to the right. That's probably the final shot. So very interesting. Superformance is getting the velocity, but just the group accuracy is terrible. All right, that velocity was right up there around like 2760, something like that, 2770. Really good. Book said that the exact loading I just did should be 2800. This was max, but that's with a 24-inch barrel. So with a 22-inch barrel, basically Superformance is doing exactly what it said it would do. So, you know what? Pretty happy about that. The book was way off on accurate 4350, unless it's just my gun just hates that particular powder. But the book was pretty accurate on 6.5 Staball and pretty accurate on Superformance, so that's cool. Let's see if this is a terrible group like the ones before it. Pretty much. I mean, it's not like that, but you know, that's, I don't know, 3-inch group, 2.5-inch group, so not good. It doesn't appear that I'm going to get good accuracy out of Superformance. So one last load and then we'll call it good. All right, last group, half grain over max. Check out these numbers. Bam. Finally hit 2800. I didn't hit it at max like the book said. I hit it at half grain over max, but still pretty cool. Look at those numbers. Great SD. Feel good. The 7mm-08 strikes back. I knew it had it in it. However, what kind of accuracy did we get? I really had to slow it down with this cartridge because if it got hot, it just started slinging them up and to the right. So, and it was pretty cool, but honestly not as cool as it had been. A little bit warm there on the last three, so I don't know. Let's see what it looks like. What do we have here? Bam. How about that? That's about an inch group, about a minute of angle, I would say. Right on. All right, so did those giant groups just magically shrink? Maybe. More testing is definitely needed to verify it. You would need to shoot that load again and see if it repeats itself. But what a great way to end. Phenomenal SD, great muzzle velocity, and the best group of the day with Superformance powder. So the 7mm-08 strikes back. It just needed to get the right powder. If you have a heavy bullet with a 7mm-08, I recommend 6.5 Staball or even better, Superformance. Hopefully you've liked this video. If you have, please give it a thumbs up. Share it if you think it's worth sharing. Subscribe if you haven't already. Check the links in the description below. Comment, what do you think? I mean, 2800 with a 162 grain bullet, Superformance did a great job. I'm happy with it. If you watched my video on the ballistic missile strike from the 30-06, this really is the same philosophy. You've got a heavy per caliber bullet, it's a match bullet, and it's not going to be good for harvesting game, for sure. But you know, if you've got wolves or coyotes or some kind of mountain lion that's attacking your livestock or something, and it seems like it's a ways off and you need a heavy, high BC bullet that you're not trying to harvest game with, but just trying to, you know, eradicate predators or varmints in the same way that that 225 grain 30-06 would do the job. This 162 and a 7mm-08 would do the job. So if all you have is a 708, might look into this AMAX bullet for that particular purpose or application. And if you do, get Superformance powder. Until next time, guys, take care.